At the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950, the United Nations sent a plea to its member nations for military assistance. Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia was an ardent supporter of collective security after the Italian invasion of Ethiopia in 1935 and pledged to dispatch an infantry battalion being noted as the Kagnew Battalions, as each battalion would be rotated yearly, with the 1st Battalion arriving in Korea in 1951. Additionally, many members of the Kagnew Battalions were drawn from Ethiopia's Imperial Bodyguard Division. Now, the Imperial Bodyguard Division was Ethiopia's most elite troops, which was founded in 1917 by Ethiopian officers who had trained and fought for the British. During the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, the Imperial Bodyguard fought at the Battle of Meichu, where 6 battalions participated with 30,000 Ethiopian soldiers against 40,000 Italian and Eritrean troops, who had another 40,000 men in reserves. During the battle, the Ethiopians hurled themselves into the Italian defenses and broke their lines until Italy sent in bombers. Emperor Selassie then sent in the Imperial Guard under the command of Ras Getchu Abtate against the Eritreans. The training and discipline of this elite force was apparent in their methodical mode of their advance over the open grounds. For 3 hours, they struggled to roll up the Italian flank. The 10th Battalion of the 2nd Eritrean Division was then virtually annihilated by the Guard. In the end, the Italian commander would call down the concentrated artillery fire onto its own positions to kill as many of the Ethiopians as possible and eventually gain an Italian victory. Afterwards, many of the Guard joined the Ethiopian resistance against the Italians. So now that you know what kind of guys are joining these Kagnew battalions, it's only fitting that they were noted for their distinction in combat under the U.S. 7th Infantry Division and would even earn a U.S. Presidential Unit citation. The Kagnew Battalion, led by Lieutenant Colonel Kebede Gebre, arrived in Pusan on May 6, 1951. The Ethiopians then moved to UN camps in Dongre, where they were supplied with American equipment and given basic military training with this equipment. The Ethiopians then engaged in a fierce battle for the first time on August 12, 1951. Thereafter, the 1st Battalion would dispatch platoons or company-sized reconnaissance units several times. They destroyed enemy outposts, contributing to the operation of the 7th Division. 1st Battalion initiated an attack and occupied Hill 700 near Samhyon on September 21st. They occupied Hill 602 the next day with artillery and air fire. In this action, the commies suffered 179 deaths, and later on, the battalion was awarded a citation by the U.S. President for their achievements. On March 28, 1952, the 1st Battalion returned home while the 2nd Battalion arrived in Korea on the next day, being deployed to the main resistance line around Mount Yunga. On October 4th, while patrolling, they engaged in an ambush with Chinese forces and killed 26 of the enemy. They would then fight in the Battle of the Triangle against the Chinese. The 2nd Battalion was replaced by the 3rd Battalion after fighting for the hills at Kaohwangdong, west of Chulwon on April 16, 1953. One of the feats that Brigadier General Samuel Lindman Atwood Marshall thought worth noting was an Ethiopian patrol at the Battle of Porkchop Hill in 1953, which, when under full observation from the enemy, 8 Ethiopians walked 800 yards across no man's land and up the slope of T-Bone Hill right into the enemy trenches. When Marshall looked again, the 8 Ethiopians had become 10 people, as the patrol was dragging back 2 Chinese prisoners, having snatched them from the Communist battalion and wasting a lot of Chinese soldiers. Of the 3,158 Ethiopians who served in the war, 121 died and 536 were wounded during the course of the conflict. At least 9 were awarded the Silver Star Medal, and dozens of Bronze Stars were awarded to Ethiopians by the United States. 2 members of the Kagnew Battalion, being Lieutenant Colonel Teshome Ergutu and 2nd Lieutenant Habtewold Mamo, were awarded Ethiopia's highest gallantry award, known as the Knights of the Order of Emperor Menelik II. The 3rd Kagnew Battalion, which arrived in 1953, stayed through the course of the signing of the Armistice of the Korean War until 1954. Over the next 2 years, more Ethiopians guarded the stalemate in Korea as part of the 4th Kagnew Battalion and the 5th Kagnew Company. Even though some publications indicated that Ethiopians remained in Korea until 1965, they would in fact remain as part of the United Nations Command in Korea until 1975. When the communist junta of Mengistu came to power in 1974, it did everything it could to erase what they saw as an embarrassing record of the Kagnew service against communists. At the same time, Mengistu's communist government enacted the Red Terror in Ethiopia, which killed up to 980,000 people, and the Ethiopian famine in a commie land reform policy, which killed another 1.2 million people. At the same time, Mengistu's government fought the Ethiopian Civil War and the Ogaden War against another communist regime, being Somalia. But Mengistu had to put so many resources into erasing Ethiopian history. Wow, communism sucks. Kids, don't do it. Did you know about Ethiopia's participation in the Korean War before this video? Is there anything that I missed or should have talked more about? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.